Good morning, Gabrielle. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. So I wanted to have you on just so we could talk a little bit about the role that a spouse and caregiver takes when they're living with someone with PTSD or even a family member, whether it's a mom or a dad or a child. And so many people recommended you, and Joan herself recommended you, and you personally get to work with my partner, so I'm really happy I got to meet you, and I get to see all the work that you do. So thank you so much for taking time to meet with me today. And even just for me, tell me a little bit about your background, who you are, how you got here, what you specialize in, and just your passions.
Sure. I actually love telling this story.
Oh, good. Well, because really, I'm also just meeting you for the first time too, so I'm like, this is good for me.
No, I think it is just so cool how our life pieces things together for us. So I guess my story kind of started when I was 16 years old, and I just read a cute little book.
Oh.
I read a cute book, and it was about a woman who was a trauma psychologist, and I thought, oh, I want to do that. That's what I want. That's it. I want to be able to be the person who gets to be with people when they're hurting the most. And there's something so special about that. Like even at 16, there was something within me that knew that was it. And then I forgot about it.
Because then you had to go through society.
I was 16, and so then I went away to university, and I think I was in my third year of university and doing my undergrad, and I mean I was just doing it in English because I liked books and I liked to write, and then started thinking about grad school and researching programs, and I just again knew, I'm like, I know I want to be in counseling, so I need to be looking at those programs specifically. And as I did a little bit of research in that, I found a program in marriage and family therapy, and that just fit.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's kind of like you get this peace inside when you know something is right for you.
Yes.
And it's that sense of knowing, that sense of calm, and so I just felt
your
like
presence is so calm.
Oh, thanks.
It is. Like when I met you, I'm like, oh, like I used to think I'm usually pretty calm, but you're calm. I'm like, I love it. It feels really nice.
Just sharing it with you.
Yeah. I'm like, well, it's really nice for someone to walk in the door who would be like new or who is like overwhelmed or nervous to come here. Just be like, oh, she's chill about it. Okay, I am too.
We can just kind of be in this place together. Yes. So as I started doing my studies, I did get my master's in marriage and family therapy because I really wanted to work with couples. I really wanted to work with the family unit because we see so much brokenness in this world. And I just had this sense in my heart that if we can work on the relationships of the couples, we are going to see that filter through society. We're going to see that move through their homes and into their children's lives and into the schools. And just when people have good, healthy relationships, other people notice. Yes. And so I was moving toward that passion as well. And I needed to do an internship. I had to do a lot of work, and so that's how I got connected with Joan. It's how I got to start working at Mind Shift, and at that point they didn't take interns. Wow. But they
make an exception because you're wonderful. It was like the universe, like, you need to get there.
They made an exception because they said, we have a gap in our program and we have all these spouses who have no support.
Oh, I love Joan.
And so we need to fill that gap. So that's what I did for my internship. I started developing the couple skills mentoring program, started looking at how we can start to bring spouses into the fold here, because PTSD can be really isolating. Yes. Not just for the veteran or the person who has been traumatized, but also for the family member who's like, who the heck is this person that I'm living with? How do I reach out to my family? How do I communicate this with my friends when I don't even really know what's going on myself? So that's how I came to work at Mind Shift. So I do some individual trauma work with veterans. I do some individual trauma work with their spouses. And then I also do all the couples work here.
At first, were you surprised by how many families were going through the same, I don't want to say the same trauma, but the same kind of scenarios, describing almost similar situations.
Right.
And also, I know we're in a big military community,
Yeah.
but just in general, like, were you surprised by the amount of similarities between families and how many were coming?
Absolutely. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I started here just it's like 2 years ago, almost exactly, I didn't even like really know what mind shift is. Kind of like this little hidden gem.
No, same with me.
Yeah.
I was like, why didn't I know about this?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what? And it's right here in like our backyard.
Right.
Yes.
So no, I had no idea. I'd never been in the military world, so it was just it was something that I didn't know about, but I'm just so thankful that I know about it now, and that I'm seeing so many parts of my life kind of pieced together. So I have the trauma work, I have the couples work, and yeah.
Great. What do you find is the most common thing, I'll see, like from the spouse who's living with a person with PTSD? Maybe like 1 to 3 or 5 things that you notice are very similar that they're asking you about or looking for help on or guidance on, that if someone who just is watching this for the first time and is just starting to look for help can really take something away from that for themselves.
Absolutely. I notice a lot of people come in and say, I just need some tools.
Yeah.
I need some tools. I need to know how to talk to him or her when they get really triggered, because when everything gets so heated, like all of a sudden they're at a 10 out of 10 and you don't know what to do to calm them down.
Yes.
So that's something that is just so common, because what would have worked before just doesn't work now.
Yeah, and you're always trying to rationalize what they're doing, so you could try to almost be one step ahead to help them. But sometimes, like, there's nothing to make sense of.
Right. That literally what I was going to say, because trauma doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Or else we would have a way to sort through it in our brains and in our bodies. But when something senseless happens, we can't process it cognitively in the same way that we process our other experiences. So it gets stored and stuck in our bodies and changes our beliefs. So you can't, it's way harder to stay a step ahead of something that doesn't make sense. Yeah, so that would be, like, I just imagine it would be so confusing for people.
Yes.
That's another thing I hear a lot is, it's like, I know how great he was before. I know that person's in there, but now he or now she is super angry, or super anxious, or we used to be so social and now we can't go to the movies, or they're always scanning the room if we actually do get to go to a restaurant. So definitely hear a lot about changes in socialization and comfortability in crowds. It's just not.
And what would you recommend for a spouse or even like a friend or a family member that's with someone with PTSD who's in a social setting that then they're triggered? What's the best thing that they can do for them?
That if they're out.
Yeah, if they're out and about, say like at the movies, and they're going to see this movie and all of a sudden it gets too busy, they're overwhelmed, now they're triggered, or they want to get out of there, or they're starting to sweat.
Yeah.
What's the best thing they can do? Just say, like, let's take a step outside, or what's something that the spouse could do in a situation like that?
I know I've heard from quite a number of our veterans who do go to the movies that they find some of them find the base theater a little bit better because it is a more open space.
Okay, yes.
They can see around a bit better, or if they do go to the theaters, like in Fredericton here, sometimes they like to sit in the back row. They like to be on the end. They like to be able to know that the door is right there.
Yes.
So, like, there are things that we just have to phase into, because what you're doing is creating a new neural pathway for that. You're creating some new safety for it.
I like that word, phase into.
Yeah, we can't just jump into something that feels dangerous.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's something that feels like an everyday experience for us, and would have felt like an everyday experience for them, is dangerous now. So that's how their brain and their body has coded it. It started reacting to, this is not safe. and it, maybe they could logically rationalize that the Fredericton Theater is safe, but everything else in them is saying no. So
yeah.
I would just remind them that they're safe to, and to say, you know what, let's go outside and take a breath. Like, we can come back in if we're ready, like just having that kind of patience. But at the same time, I also don't think it's the spouse's responsibility to be their therapist.
Yeah.
That is just not something you have to take on.
Yeah. I'm like, write that one down.
You don't have to do that.
It's not your responsibility to be their therapist, because that's what I feel like is happening a lot with the spouse and caregiver role, is like they want to be everything. So it's, or
feel probably pushed into being everything.
Maybe more like feeling pushed, like, well, this is like the deck I've been served, so I guess I should just take it in because I'm pushed to be here. So kind of balancing the role of being the spouse, you're not the therapist. Like, you can be supportive, but then there's also like therapy and medical treatments that can help in different areas. Yeah, I guess it also comes with like being educated as the spouse and caregiver, what is out there.
Absolutely. Because there's so many different services out there, so many different areas of treatment that could be beneficial. And some things work for one person and really wouldn't for another.
Yes.
Like massage, for instance, is super, super helpful and lovely for some people, and for others who hate being touched, like, no. Yeah,
and then you gotta find something else. Just working with what they need. That's even like with cannabis. Like, I have always been for cannabis, just the way like I grew up and the way my dad used it and in our family. So just being more pro and seeing what it can do to benefit people, like pro cannabis, but then like becoming more the spouse and caregiver, and then seeing like, what is the endocannabinoid system, why is this working for you, how can I support you, and being like, you should probably medicate, like or and being on the other side where I know some spouse and caregivers who like don't know about the endocannabinoid system or know about therapy or know how you can use cannabis as like a stepping stone to get you to other treatments. So that requires a lot of education too on their end. Yeah, a lot of education for sure. Just we do a lot of regulation work here at the clinic. Okay, see, I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, so how do we calm the brain down enough? How do we calm the body down enough so that a person can actually participate in therapy?
Okay.
So they can feel safe enough in this space to talk instead of feeling like they're going to panic. And so cannabis does really help with that. Like, I've definitely seen that in some of the work that I've done with veterans specifically, that maybe in our first few sessions, they hadn't gotten in to see their doctor yet, or they were maybe self-medicating and hadn't found quite the right blend yet.
Yes.
And the shift that happens when they found the right blend, the right medication, that we can then really do some good therapeutic work. And then I find it doesn't even mean that they're going to need to medicate in the same way forever.
Yes.
That sometimes it can shift once they can regulate and do some therapy, and then, continue evaluating what they need.
One of the most common questions I'm noticing coming up in the free Facebook group that I started is how the spouse and caregiver in their role, they feel like they notice that their partner isn't doing as much as they can, but the partner thinks that they're doing all they can. So like one incident, I won't mention any names, but one was like, my partner spends a lot of the time in the basement. He does medicate, but the partner thinks not enough. And like he goes to an appointment here and there, but like he's not going to all the therapy appointments, or he's not trying to go to yoga, or he's not going to like the peer support, or he's not making like that extra step that kind of creates like the whole, I guess, of maintenance and well-being. And she's like, he ends up just spending a lot of time there. And for him, it's like, yeah, I'm doing good. And she's like, yeah, but don't you remember like a few months ago when we would like do this or do this more, So she's having a hard time trying to express to him like, yes, I love all that you're doing,
could you do a little bit more? You know, like,
Yeah.
how do you say that in a loving way while trying to support them? Like, what's something that you would recommend for someone that's feeling in that situation? Is that kind of a situation that's like, you're not the therapist either.
Yeah, no,
like, just a way that the spouse could gently say something, because you don't want to get to like the ultimatum part right away. Like, sometimes it does come to that, or you have to remove yourself, but just finding the conversation and being able to gently express how you feel while feeling heard.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good point too, right? And we talk about readiness for change. That when we are first kind of meeting with people and going through assessment, we're looking at their readiness for change and which phase they're at there.
Yes.
Like, are they kind of thinking about it? Or is there some ambivalence, but they have a little bit of motivation to change? Like, they see that there's a problem, they want to work on it.
Yes.
Because, I mean, one thing that I think we all know of our veterans is that they are hard workers.
Yeah.
So they work and they know how to put forth effort. But this is something that is just, it requires so much work, and I think it's really scary to think about having to go into an office and talk about it.
Yeah. So it's almost like what we think, oh, that might be kind of easy to do. It's so scary and overwhelming.
I imagine it would be really scary and overwhelming. And I mean, one thing we do say here at Mindshift is that we don't make you tell your story over and over again. Like, you're going to have to tell it at least once to Joan, but she can write it down and the rest of us know how to read. Yeah. So you don't have to keep reliving it over and over again, because we see how traumatizing that is.
Totally.
And can actually be re-traumatizing. So, but not everybody knows that we do that if they don't come in. So so that is a part of it. But I guess to answer your question in terms of like how to communicate your own needs, because those are so important too.
Yes.
Like, you are the other part of this relationship, and your needs are valid and you're valuable and deserve to have your needs met and your wants heard as well.
Yes.
So I guess one thing I recommend to all the spouses I work with is self-care. And I know that sounds probably like an obvious thing, but when someone is feeling so anxious and so concerned about their partner and not knowing what to do, and maybe feeling a little bit of helplessness there too, I think it's probably really hard to say, what do I want to do for myself today when I'm so wrapped up in taking care of this other person?
Yes.
But it has to be prioritized. You need to find something for yourself that even if he's not going to go out, I feel like
just hearing this is like giving permission that people need to hear.
Do
like, you have permission to take care of yourself. Like, yes.
Yeah. We can't give from an empty space either. And so we need to build up that confidence in ourselves. We need to build up more resiliency in ourselves, because that's something that really suffers in our spouses. That we see is someone who was once so resilient, who could handle everything that was thrown in them, all of a sudden has to go to the grocery store 6 times because they keep forgetting things. And that's what stress does to us, right? Like, that's how that's where vicarious trauma comes from. That's what we were talking just before we started filming. We were just talking about that, how living with someone who has been traumatized is actually traumatizing in and of itself.
Yes. So that's a great lead in to what we were talking about before we started recording. I was speaking with someone who, she is also a spouse and caregiver to someone with PTSD, but it's also like a healer. So she does Reiki and different things. And I was actually just like meeting with her to talk about her and her well-being. And I was like, well, there's such thing as secondary PTSD. And she was like, what? And I feel like that's becoming more common, that people are like, what? I didn't know that existed. What is that? So if you don't mind just touching on what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was saying, living with someone with trauma can be traumatizing, because you're watching somebody that you love suffer.
Yes.
And then there's all those feelings of walking on eggshells and not knowing what what is it that I do that's so unintentional that could be a trigger that we didn't even know about?
Yes.
So that leads to a lot of stress on the brain. It leads to a lot of stress on the body. Can be really anxiety inducing, which is a huge part of PTSD. Whenever there's relational distress, that can lead to symptoms of depression for sure.
Yes.
A lot of hypervigilance, which is another big symptom of PTSD, where you're constantly on guard, constantly being hyper alert to what's going on around you, like making sure that the house is super, super neat, so nothing's out of place, so everything is in order and there's no chaos. And sometimes that's not enough, and so then it just feels like
so then like the person living with them is also starting to get hyper vigilant because you're on guard. And you're waiting for the next outburst, and you don't want to say the wrong thing, and which is a form of PTSD in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely something that can happen. Not even just secondary PTSD, but anxiety, depression as well. So even if a spouse did not meet the full criteria for PTSD, they could very many other things. Meet the criteria for other things.
Do you find there's more benefit when, say, a couple is seeing you or a therapist individually and coming together, or do you find it most beneficial, like, for them to come together for sessions as a couple?
Yeah, that's interesting. So what we do here is when someone comes in through our assessment phase, we actually have quite a few steps in our assessment phase now. It's not just a 3-hour appointment with Joan. We actually do an intake. We do the clinical cue, brainwave assessment, and then couples meet with me once. Which is kind of neat. So what I'm doing there is a relate assessment. So assessing how the veteran sees himself or herself and then sees the world around them, because trauma changes that. And then it also gives me an opportunity to meet the couple, gives me an opportunity to let the spouse know that he or she is very welcome here, that we want them to be part of this, that if they need some psychoeducation, more than happy to offer that. If they want to come sit in on a session so they know what their partner is going through and the treatment, we want them to come. So and then it gives me a chance to see and kind of assess that if down the road they said we'd really like to do some couples therapy, I can kind of get a sense, is the veteran regulated enough to actually sit and tolerate being interrupted by me, because I do that a lot.
That's fun though.
And,
you need like that person's like the ref.
Like, we're doing it differently here. Or if it would be more beneficial to say, okay, let's start couple therapy right away. While you do your treatment. But I notice huge differences. It's really amazing.
Awesome.
Really amazing that once a couple feels ready to come in with their stuff and own their stuff too.
Because it is still a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. Coming in here and saying, I need you to fix him. Or you have to fix her. It's just, it's going to take a little
longer.
Like,
well, we both need some fixing and adapting. Something that and maybe more in my other group I run, it's more like leaders, seekers, and seers for a new earth. So we just have like a different way of looking at things. So consciousing, where you believe in law of attraction, or that inner healer work, the heart work is the hard work, is one of my taglines. And one of the things in there I notice is people struggle with, how do I know if this is a reflection of me? So sometimes that perspective of like, well, this person is questioning my work. Well, is my ego constantly questioning my work? Is that my inner work? Once I stop questioning my work, will the outside stop questioning me? Like that reflection work. How do you know the difference when that's happening to when like this situation has nothing to do with you?
Right.
That's something that I find people struggle with too.
Yes.
So you don't mind just adding like a comment or so about that from your perspective. That's something I noticed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
A question I ask a lot in individual therapy specifically is that yours to carry?
Oh.
Is that yours or is it somebody else's?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's somebody else's, then you don't have to carry it.
Yeah, drop the bag.
Drop it. Like
Yeah.
It's not like, and so I apply that to my own life. I'm like,
mm-hmm. Is that yours to carry?
is this mine? Nope. Off I go.
Yeah, you can have a podcast called that. Is this yours to carry?
No.
Like in every episode, like, is this yours? This situation is not. I like that.
Yeah, so sometimes we just need to take a pause.
Mm-hmm.
So if your partner says something to you that's super nasty,
yeah,
is that really about me?
mm-hmm.
No.
Yes.
No, it's not. A lot of times it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe something, I guess, just to layer into that is if it cuts deep,
Mm-hmm.
is this a message you heard before from somebody else?
Yeah.
Because it's just going to re-injure. So
that's a great one.
Right. And so our partners tend to know our buttons in the same way that we know theirs.
Especially the longer you're together.
The more familiar.
Yeah, everyone is with each other. Yeah.
Yes. So you're gonna know. And so there are gonna be times when people are looking to, like, they're so reactive.
Yes.
Right. And so you know that they're at that point in that cycle of anger and distress, like they're going for the jugular.
Yes.
And then when they calm down, maybe they didn't mean it, but it still hurt you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is really painful because I imagine there's a lot of those feelings of betrayal and hurt.
Yes. And resentment is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I found especially, like, this kind of going off topic, but I found especially, like, when we were talking earlier about the couples who've been together a long time, they knew them from one way, now there's another way.
Yeah.
There's, like, that resentment there.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe someone who's just meeting the person newly, and the person knows, I used to be like this, but now I'm like this, you're getting to know them now. Yeah, I can imagine that there'd be a lot of different, like, resentment and feelings of trying to process all of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just how long do we wait and fight for that person to come back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another great one.
Painful.
How long do we wait? Yeah. Because really, like, they aren't going to come back in that form.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're getting to know your partner again.
Yeah, different.
Yes.
Different version.
Yeah.
But some of those good parts can.
Oh yeah, some of those parts will always be there because that's just part of who you are, is your personality and your soul.
Core.
Yes.
Yeah.
In your core.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess when it comes to distress, though, Juliane and I were just talking about this.
Yes,
book
I was just gonna bring it up.
I'm just gonna hold it up for you. It's called "Hold Me Tight" by Dr. Sue Johnson. And so this is a book that she wrote. Sue Johnson developed a couples therapy called Emotionally Focused Therapy, EFT, for couples. She's written quite a number of books about it. And it is the most successful form of couples therapy out there.
Wow.
So 70 to 75% of couples who go through the full therapy are happier than they've ever been. Like, it's so successful. It's really beautiful. And actually 90 to 95% of couples who go through the therapy are just notice like really good improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And so this book that she wrote, it's at Chapters, it's on Amazon.
Value Village randomly. When we walked in, I was like, I'm going to use some books just to prop up my stand. And I was like, oh, that book was just on the shelf at Value Village, and I really felt called to get it. And she was like, what? And I'm like, what? I guess it was meant to be, because I didn't know that she had the connection and what this book was. I haven't even read it yet, but I'm definitely going to read it.
Yes.
And so get it anywhere.
It's so excellent. It's just for any couple who like might not even necessarily want to go to couples therapy, but wanted to work on their relationship a little bit. And so she uses so many different couple examples of couples that she's worked with.
Oh, that's nice.
I love, because you can read through and say, oh, really not us. We don't connect to that one.
Mm-hmm.
But my guess is you're going to read through one of them and think, oh my gosh,
Like, that's my life.
that's exactly what we do. So she teaches about how couples, and every single couple does this, every single family does this, we do this in relationship. We have what we call a distress cycle.
Okay.
So it's how we interact when we're in a fight or when there's distress. Sometimes couples say, well, we really don't fight. But you still are in distress at times.
Yeah.
There's still moments when you are disconnected from one another.
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole therapy is about finding that emotional connection. Because one of the biggest things that I hear from couples when they come in and I say, okay, what's the problem? What is like the goal for therapy, or what do we want to be working on?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, we want to have better communication skills. And I always say, we can have all the communication skills in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and you will still be in distress.
Yeah.
Because you're not connected. So this
Like,
is,
that makes me want to cry.
it's so beautiful.
Oh my God.
It's so
That's
beautiful.
so good. Because, yeah, you could have the best communication skills, but if you're not connected and not in that distress, it doesn't matter.
It does not matter because there's no safety there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not tuned into that person to know that they actually care what you're saying.
Yes.
That they actually are responsive to you and your needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so this therapy is all about creating a safe haven of attachment, a secure
Yes.
attachment within your relationship. And that is healing.
Yes.
That's where this fits with anybody, but where it fits with trauma, because
Yes.
trauma makes people feel unsafe. And so it's just so cool. Studies show that.
Everyone's just trying to find safety.
I know. Studies
Yeah.
show that if you had a couple
Mm-hmm.
who was securely attached to one another and emotionally connected, and you cut each of them,
Okay.
their bodies are going to heal faster
Oh,
than a
wow.
couple who is not.
Oh, my gosh.
So it impacts our physical bodies, and actually having that connection helps to regulate the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this fits so well here at Mindshift too,
Mhm.
because if we can help regulate through the romantic relationship, then they can carry that knowledge. Secure attachment actually leads to more autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
and you can carry that reminder with you when you're like elsewhere in the world.
Wow.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it is incredible.
Yeah, and it just feels so good to be connected.
Yes.
You know, like it feels so good to feel safe, to feel connected,
Yeah.
and it just kind of helps everything else flow easier and makes things
Yeah.
more simple.
For both people.
Yes, for both people, everyone involved, or just being around people like that feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can feel energy, like when someone isn't as connected or couples aren't as connected. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that was hard.
Right,
Like, just to be
right.
around them. Like,
And that's what leads to this distress cycle that is talked
Mhm.
about in here. Because somebody's going to notice.
yeah.
And then maybe it brings up some anxiety in them. Maybe they start
Yes.
wondering, what's going on? What do I do? How do I fix this? And then maybe they start picking and kind of chasing after him. It's usually the woman who pursues.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely guilty for that too.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh my gosh, here I've been
Yeah.
trying to fix or pursue and make him happy, make things better, when it's just like I just need to back it up a little and create the space, reconnect, and
Yeah, do that
Yes.
reconnecting work. So, I mean, we want that secure attachment. We want that emotional connection
Mhm.
for everybody. And it just has to be done in a safe space and with empathy
Yes.
too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then it feels safer to be able to turn toward one another for support instead of pulling back.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Any final words,
Oh.
wisdom, or messages, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say that you're not alone.
Mhm.
That help is out there. That, I mean, I know you guys have created a really lovely network.
Mhm.
But I mean, we're here too. Like, if you want
Yes.
another layer.
We
another
can't say enough
view.
good things with the Mindshift, so everyone just needs to funnel this way. Come over here. Yes.
Yeah, that this is not something you have to do alone. And it's not something, like, we're not meant to live life alone.
Yes.
And so sometimes we need to step out and create and almost fight for it. I imagine there are times when you feel like you're fighting for it. But we can be here to help. Like, there's the individual therapy for both. There's the couple therapy.
And even some kids come here, do they?
Depending on
the situation,
their ages.
Okay,
depending on their ages. Yep. And if we can't see them here because we don't have anybody specifically specialized in with children right now, we would refer them over to Joan Wright and Associates. Because they have people there. So,
amazing.
So we do have resources for that, but just not necessarily in this building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for your time and sharing all your wisdom. And there's like all these little things I want to go through and make like bumper stickers out of, or like we need like t-shirts for the spousal caregivers. Like, oh, like there's so many good things that you said that people are going to watch and just, I think, feel like relieved or like hope, like for them and the person living with PTSD as well.
Yeah,
like, oh, she also hears me and understands. And
so
thank you so much.